This is the Horse Radio Network.
You're listening to The Stall and Stable Show. Ideas for happy horsekeeping.
We're back this week with another episode in my HRN Host Series on happy horsekeeping. This time I have a long chat with FEI dressage rider, trainer, and business owner Reese Koffler-Stanfield. Reese is the co-host of the Dressage Radio Show, the official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation. Reese tells us all about her wonderful farm in Kentucky, her business model, and how she defines success. So listen in. This is episode 94 of the Stall and Stable Show, brought to you by Lucas Equine Equipment, makers of premium quality barn components and accessories. From stall fronts in all sizes and colors to gates, latches, doors, and windows, Lucas Equine is the company that can turn your barn into a slice of heaven on earth. To see what I mean, go to www.lucasequine.com. Today's Friday, March 11th, 2022. I'm your host, Helena Harris. In addition to our title sponsor, I would like to thank Tangent Materials and American Harvest Hemp for supporting this podcast. The saying goes, if you ask 10 different horse people how to do something, you'll get 10 different answers. Well, in this series, I decided to put that adage to the test and ask 10 different horse people their opinions about what qualifies for happy horsekeeping. Those 10 people happen to be my Horse Radio Network colleagues, all horse professionals in some way, shape, or form, and all with a similar horse-first philosophy when it comes to keeping, training, and competing their horses. My guest today is Reese Koffler-Stanfield. Reese has both a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics and a master's degree in international commerce from the prestigious Patterson School of International Diplomacy and Commerce at the University of Kentucky. She is the owner of Maple Crest Farm. She is also a trainer, competitor, coach, and all-around wonderful person, in addition to being the co-host of the Dressage Radio Show. I am so happy to welcome her to Stall and Stable. Hi, Reese, and welcome to Stall and Stable.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited because we've never done this before, you and I. We've talked on the phone. I think we might have done Radiothon Roundtable once or twice.
I think we did.
But you've been doing this for almost 10 years. And so this is a really good opportunity for me to get to know my co-hosts, my HRN family a little bit better.
I know. I loved it. I jumped on it. I didn't even know really what I signed up for. I just said yes. I was like, okay. I think maybe that's a little bit. Yeah, I was like, sure. I'll do anything to help her. So I'm happy to be here, and it's fun. We're doing it on Zoom, and I'm not used to like looking at people. We just do audio on the Horse Radio Network, so it's
But
fun.
You're a very social, outgoing, warm, friendly person, so this is perfect for you.
Yes, I love it.
That's one of the things that I love about Zoom now is that I can see someone else's enthusiasm. And you're like, yeah, this conversation's going in a good place. And she's smiling.
Yeah, versus like they're falling asleep. I teach a college course now.
Yeah.
I teach a class at the University of Kentucky. And right now we're still on Zoom. And the class is Global Sport Horse Industry. And so I look at like 30 kids. And to be honest, sometimes I'm like, are you guys sleeping? Like, what are you doing over there? Wake up. So
aren't these horse people? Shouldn't they be hanging on your every word? This is like a horse class.
I feel like they should, but I don't. I feel like they should. Thank you for hanging on my every word.
Tell me again the name of this class, because I'm fascinated that they have one like this.
Yeah, so it's called Global Sport Horse Industry.
And what do you cover?
All of it, right? We talk about buying and selling. We talk about horse husbandry and what specifically sport horses need. We talk about what a boarding operation would mean in a sport horse capacity. That was last week's. We talk about legal issues. We talk about insurance issues, travel.
So how would you define a sport horse, or how is a sport horse defined in this situation?
That's a great question. So I define it. I got to make the definition. So any of the disciplines that are in the FEI is how we define it. So I think that's 7: combined driving, show jumping, dressage, eventing, vaulting, endurance. So I don't really know a lot about all of those, but the fun part about it is I have speakers every week.
It's a great segue between your degree and your graduate studies and your passion.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, horse trainers, I always tease my kids that come here to train. I'm like, you kind of have to, if you want to be a horse trainer, be good at a lot of different things.
So a sport horse at the FEI level, I hear this a lot now. So everyone's like, oh, my FEI horse or my FEI trailer or my FEI, everything's an FEI something.
FEI.
Right. So a sport horse is essentially a horse who is competing, but in this case at the international level, because the FEI is the international governing body of horse sports, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that is, I like where you're going. I get where you're going with this, because a lot of people say I'm an FEI rider.
Yes.
Yeah. So in dressage, that means the international levels start at Prix St. George. So technically, if you ride Prix St. George or higher, you ride at the FEI level. You really ride at the FEI level in dressage when you compete at a CDI. So that, and then you have to have an FEI license.
Oh, boy.
So that's kind of the difference. You know, like if I compete, like I'm competing in a couple weeks at the US finals, dressage finals, that is at intermediate 1, which is an international level, but it's at a national competition.
Okay. I got it. So do you actually have to leave the United States? If you're an American rider, do you have to leave the United States to compete at the international level?
You can, for sure. You can. So basically, Florida gets really popular because there are these international competitions. There's 10 dressage shows, I think. And those are events that will qualify you for the World Cup, the Olympics, the World Championships. So you actually have to enter that international competition. I have a horse right now competing at the Grand Prix level in an international competition, which is great. I mean, I haven't had one in 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, they don't grow on trees. That's what I tell people. Like it doesn't happen all the time. And I think when you don't have a horse competing at that level, I think when I was a junior, it's not the easier at junior, but it kind of is. You know, once you turn professional and you really have to fundraise it and go there and all the things, it's a little bit more difficult.
So this is going to be in Florida.
Yep. So I competed last year. His name is Bingo, and he did 2 or 3 CDIs at Grand Prix. And so,
what kind of horse is Bingo?
He is a Dutch warm blood by Good Times.
Now, is that KWPN?
Yes, that's right.
I knew something. I don't know. There was probably a Practical Horseman article like from 1998 where I knew what KWPN meant. Tell us about your farm in Kentucky. And I know that you ride, you train, you teach.
Yes.
And is this your farm?
Yes, it is. So I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. I was born and raised here, which couldn't be better. I was literally born downtown. When I went to college, I could see where I was born. I was like, I didn't move very far in life. So I'm born and raised here in Lexington, which couldn't be a better place. And then 11 and a half years ago, my husband and I, no, actually longer than that, probably 12 years ago, my husband and I bought this farm. We bought the farm. So my husband is a great supporter of mine. And it was a field when we bought it, and we developed it.
So you put the barn on it?
We put the barn on it.
How many stalls do you have? 10
in the main barn. Then I have 2 in my indoor arena. The indoor arena came not quite a year after we opened the farm. We had 1 winter, and I was like, I ain't doing that again. but truly, when I felt like when I was running a business, I would rather know exactly what my income would be.
Yep.
Versus, Kentucky gets a lot of rain. We get a lot of times you can ride in it, or if you have 1 or 2 horses, you can put a coat on. But if you're teaching and have 8 to 10 horses a day, it's awful. So I built the arena, and then I have 2 other shed barns, and those are also stalls. I personally do not like having horses that I don't have a stall or enclosure for. I just don't like that. Makes me uncomfortable. So everybody that lives here has to have some sort of stall or dwelling. So I can have 16 stalls.
Okay. And how many horses do you have on the property?
It's funny, over time, and as you get older, I also went 2.5 years ago, and I became an FEI certified instructor. So right now for dressage. So right now in the US, there's only 9 of us.
Wow.
So I switched my business to a little bit more teaching than I did keeping horses. So I used to have 16 stalls. I will tell you, it was probably the most anxious I've ever been in my life. 16 stalls and 16 horses, you have to have the staff to cover that. And thankfully, before COVID, my mom, who is a lifelong horsewoman, said to me once, she said, and it really resonated, she said, you don't have to have a full barn to be successful.
Yes, ma'am. Hallelujah.
Right? Hallelujah. I literally was like, must fill all stalls. And she said that to me. And it was just like, I don't know. Sometimes mommies are so smart. And I was like, she's right. Actually, as a professional, it's really nice to choose the horses you have.
Yes.
And not have to pack the house with volume. Because then, as trainers too, the volume is you have a lot of people, you have people to manage. It was overwhelming to me.
Your operational costs triple. With every extra horse you add, it's staff, it's insurance, it's risk. And we, you know this, we don't make money on board. You just don't. The only thing that boarding gets us is an installed customer base to whom we can sell our services.
And I think, it's always a good thing that I think people need to hear. And I rent in Florida, so I have kind of both points of view.
Yep.
So when we're in Florida for 4 months, I rent there. And I actually love renting because I'm like, oh, the dumpster didn't get dumped. Call Jenny. Not my problem.
Yep.
Shout out to Jenny Longson. She's amazing.
So you preserve energy, but not being responsible for everything that the property or the facility needs.
Yeah. And I think people that board need to remember that. And I'm very now upfront with my farm. I live here. My apartment is in the barn. So my husband and I live here. My husband is not a horse guy. So he doesn't.
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart that he lives here. At 10 o'clock at night, no, you're not here. After 5 o'clock and my assistant leaves, it's shut.
Right.
I may be teaching. I may choose to be here, but no boarders, no horses in training. And of course, unless there's an emergency. But I really found that the people that weren't respectful didn't need to be here. Does that make sense?
Yep. What I find is that if someone has goals, personal goals, they tend to be more invested in the rules or I don't even call them the rules, the boundaries, the parameters. And that doesn't mean to say that a boarding business in and of itself is not valuable, because it is. But your business model is going to be a little bit different. So I want to backtrack and say I was wrong. You can make money in boarding, but your business model has to be different. However, if you're competing and you're teaching and you're a more service-oriented type of business owner, then you do need to change that model and reduce the number of horses for a number of reasons.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I've never been happier because I have now today in the barn, I have 9 horses, but I just imported a horse today. He's up in your neck of the woods. He's in New York. So he's coming. So we bought a baby horse. He's 3. He's on a grand adventure. So I will have 10 as of Saturday.
And he'll be your horse, or did you buy him for a client?
I bought him with a sponsor for me. It's like every time you get a new horse, you're like, ah!
Yeah, like you've never gotten a new horse before.
I get the bubbly out every time. Because the day you buy them, the day you sell them are the best days. So this is a funny horse. I did not go overseas. I was nervous to go overseas with COVID. So I have a good friend over there who I met when we were training in Germany together. And I sent her, I was like, Zitska, let me know how it goes.
Well, he's 3. So there's a process, right? In like the breeding and the pedigree, they have to meet certain standards.
That's right.
So
and then you're buying a 3-year-old, so you're buying character. And the trick is, as a professional rider, and that's how you're successful, is you have to have a pipeline of horses.
I hear that all the time, especially from eventers. They in order to get anywhere in this sport, you need the horses. You need the horses. You need the horses. And of course, that requires money. But it's not like you guys are buying 7 horses at once. You do have to think ahead. You have to plan like you do anything else, whether it's your business or your training plan. But your horses, who's up and coming? What am I going to get next?
100%. And that's, I think, for professional riders, what is tricky, because it's so expensive. So my string, I looked up, and so I have an amazing horse bingo who went to the U.S. national championships, who's competing on the international level. He's amazing. He's turning 16. And then his backup is a horse I bought also when he was 4. And his name's Follow Me, Big Mike. If you listen to the Dressage Radio Show, we talk about him. Big Mike, and he was Mikey when you bought him. Now he's Big Mike. So Big Mike, before I blinked my eyes, he's going to be 10. He's 9 right now. He's going to be 10. And then I was like, I don't have anything coming up, and I have a wonderful sponsor. She's like a second mom to me. She has been in my life. She was my longest student. I taught her first when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
And I know. And we've kept our relationship. And she also owns a third of Big Mike. And we were talking one day, and actually I'd given her a book I was reading for the book club we do on the radio show. And it was about Isabel Vert. And she said to me, you don't have any horses coming up. And I was like, I can't afford it. It's not, I need to. And I was kind of looking at foals, and foals are so little. And she said, all right, let's do another one. This will be our 3rd or 4th horse we've done together in a syndicate.
So you have this business relationship already, meaning there's relationship, there's friendship, there's loyalty, but she's a sponsor. So it's a business relationship, and there's loyalty there because you've given her a good return. Yep. Some sponsors are personally invested. Some are financially invested. I mean, they're all financially invested, but there isn't a financial return on horses. It's a soft return, but it's a very powerful one.
Right. I mean, it's she comes here once a week. She watches the process. She's very invested in that process.
Yeah.
And, especially during COVID, we were able, the way the barn is set up, to keep it very safe for everyone that came in. And she was able to come in, have a community, have friends. We all stayed distance, but everybody kind of came in. And I, again, will look back on the COVID time, and, we did a hack every Friday. She doesn't ride anymore, so she would sometimes come out and just laugh and giggle with everyone. But, we went on a hack. I mean, our hack became like notorious in the neighborhood. And I don't think we even we didn't talk a bit about horses. It was just a wonderful time of looking back. We called it Friday. And we worked like 5 or 6 horses in an hour. And we were like, this is great.
Now, before Reese and I continue on with this conversation, we're going to take a quick break to hear from Tangent Materials about tangent fencing. If you're tired of rotting, broken fences, it's time to talk to Tangent. If you want perimeter fencing that's safe and durable with a classic style, it's time to talk to Tangent. If you want to spend more time with your horses and less time worrying about your farm, it's time to talk to Tangent Materials, makers of premium HDPE lumber that looks just like wood, but without the worry. To learn more, go to stallandstable.com/fencing. So 10 horses you said you have on the property now?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now.
And
or 9, almost 10.
9, almost 10. Or the 3-year-old is going to be 10? The 10th horse?
Yeah, he's going to be the 10th. Yes.
And how many are yours?
Good question. I'm attached to my barn, and once it starts getting cold, I have to be honest, I get really grumpy when I have to put my clothes on to go out, not my pajamas, when I have to start putting coats and hats, I'm like, not doing it. But actually, that 10 number is a good number for my assistant. So I have a very good assistant. Her name's Jet Jenkins, and she's just wonderful. And she came into my life, and I've had really good assistants, and many of them become professional riders or in the horse industry themselves. So I'm always in constant communication with her, because at the end of the day, it's her job to make sure that they are perfectly cared for. So if she gets to a point where she's like, whoa, I stop and I listen to what she's saying. So, and then there's sometimes where as the owner and the business person in me, I come and say, okay, we've got this horse that doesn't really fit into what exactly I'm doing, but they want to come here, and I think it's a good idea. What do you think? So I work pretty closely with her on the numbers of horses, because she's the one that has to care for them. Again, I don't mind doing stalls at all. But as the owner of the business, if I'm not riding, teaching, or off doing a clinic, we're not making money. So of that 10, one is here only for a short time, for about a month, on her way to Florida. Very good friend of mine, came for the regionals, going to the nationals. So that horse will leave. So we'll go back to about 9, which is where I like it. And then one of the mares is retired. She's my old retired Grand Prix horse. So she's not worked. So usually we're about 8 working every day.
I love that number. It's just such a manageable, it makes a manageable business for you as a business owner. And so the reason I'm thinking all of this is because how long has your assistant been working for you?
She's been with me about 6 months.
Okay.
And I had a young woman before. I've been very, very lucky in the young women that work for me.
Okay.
They're great.
But I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that you have really strong relationships with the people you work with. And you can't do that if your energy is zapped by wearing too many hats and being responsible for too many things. So the fact that you can rely on staff that is well-trained, you have a good communication stream with them.
Yes.
That directly correlates with the health and performance of your horses. No one's going to argue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So what are your best practices for keeping your horses? Let's talk about turnout.
Yeah.
You like to make sure that all of your horses have some sort of shelter, but we all know that movement and grazing and turnout is really important for their health. What are your best practices?
Great question, because I like to say it depends. I have a facility that can sort of tailor to what the horses need. For example, if they can be, right now I have 5 horses outside. It's still nice enough in Kentucky that they can be out at night, and they're out right now. So if I can get them out at night, I will do that. Obviously, the FEI horses, they're not turned out at night, but I try to get them out as much as humanly possible because I am from Kentucky and I do believe in turnout. With that said, it depends on what the horses are doing, right? And who the horses are. So my international horse, it was funny when they first told me, when he came over, they said, well, we haven't turned out from the Netherlands. And you have to kind of remember that too. When you import a horse from Europe, they don't have the space that we have in Kentucky. So they're not used to being in a massive field. They're just not. So I have a couple size turnouts that I can play with them. But even the Grand Prix horse, he's great in turnout. He's out, he'd stay out till 1 o'clock every day. So basically what happens is Jack comes in around 7, brings the horses that are out in for the day, for the evening, or for the day, and then everybody else goes out. And right now, I mean, it's fall in Kentucky. The weather cannot be better. It's gorgeous. So we leave them out. As long as they can stay out, we will do that. And the way my farm is set up, it's kind of like a clover leaf. So we can bring one in and then they still have friends. And then I have 3 playpens. So if we have a horse that's sick, or we do have one that has to be dry lotted, he cannot go on the grass in Kentucky. After many years of dealing with trying to turn him out, the vets are like, he cannot go outside. So those are all weather surface, and they're great because even if we're moving, if somebody's unhappy outside and it's a beautiful day and they're having a problem, we'll put them in a playpen. I try not to bring them in because it's beautiful out. Stay outside. So I for a dressage rider, I'm pro outside. But with that said, if a 15-year-old Grand Prix horse that's never been outside, you can't chuck him out.
No, but it sounds like you've designed your facility so that you are flexible and you have something for whatever all of your horses, whatever a given horse in your property needs. It sounds like you've got something to meet those needs. In your paddocks, do you have grass? I know that you said you do have a dry lot. You've got all-weather footing, but do you also have grass?
Yeah, so the big pastures have grass. And one of the nice things is I have the luxury of, for 4 months a year, I'm in Florida. So I used to keep my farm open, and for many reasons now I don't keep my farm open. It's closed. So all the horses that are here, they have to find a different home for the winter. And so my paddocks rest for 4 months.
Perfect.
Great. If it's muddy, we try to turn them out in the playpens and not ruin the fields.
preserving your footing no matter what. It's just, you have to do it. I bring my horses in at night. They have a place where they could graze overnight, but I need to let the grass grow or rest so that it doesn't get overgrazed. And they can spend the evening in a dry lot. They can still come and go from their shelter, but they get to move, so their blood is circulating and it's good for their brains, right? I like that you designed in some flexibility for all the different horses, and you were realistic about what kinds of horses you're going to have on the property. And you never know who's going to come into your barn. So you have to design it for, I don't want to say the worst possible scenario, but you have to design it for
100%.
Right? Who's going to be the kicker? Who's going to be like the bucket banger? Okay, so that's turnout. Let's talk about feed. So some of your horses get to graze; they get to have grass.
Yep.
Do you supplement with hay as well?
Yes. Yep. And I feed Kentucky hay. We are famous for grass. So I have all the grass and I get, it's the same hay guys. They're my age and they used to deliver hay when we were kids and it was his dad's business. It was my mom's farm, but now we're here we are. And we always laugh every time they come in. We're like, and we're still doing this. So.
Now, how do you buy your hay? Do you buy it in round bales? Do you square bales? Regular square bales?
Square bales, yes. Square bales, it comes in, and I try to buy as much as I can because, again, I'm a little shy of a hay shortage. So I usually get 200 bales at a time, and it just depends on how many horses we have and how quickly they go through it. But it's grass. I don't need, most of my horses are tubby, so I don't need much else than that. And I'm a free choice hay kind of girl.
Do you have a preference for first cutting, second cutting? Do you guys ever get a third? Or does it depend on what horses are there and what they need?
It depends. I usually honestly let Travis Fritz, my hay guy, I just call him and I say, what do you have and what's the best right now? And he usually takes great care of me. So it depends. It just depends on what they has. And sometimes you can't be so picky. I usually let him kind of tell me.
I drive into my hay people and they're like, what do you want? I'm like, what do you got? Like, well, we got both. We got first, we got second. I was like, oh, how nice. I got a Tubba Wubba who needs the first and I got a thoroughbred who needs the second. Until, you reach a certain point when they run out and then you kind of have to.
Got to feed what they got.
Exactly. So free choice hay, how do you like to feed your hay? In nets, on the ground, in feeders?
Well, I hate hay nets, but I have a bunch of horses with hay nets. I don't like them. My Grand Prix horse got stuck at him because he's silly.
Yeah, well, your horses are shod, right?
They are shod.
Yeah, so you need to be careful.
And you have to be careful. Hey, he got his foot in the net. I don't even know. I think God, I was in there and I was doing night check. I had to cut him out. I was like, all right, you're never getting a hay net. Ever again. So he doesn't get a hay net. But the rest of them get hay nets, and that way they can have as much as they want. And we fill the hay nets, 3-4 times a day, depending on what they need.
Let's see. What else? So we got hay, we got turnout, we got number of horses on the property. Mm-hmm. You have an indoor, you have an outdoor.
I don't have an outdoor.
Oh.
So I don't have an outdoor, actually, because of my facility where I would have to take a paddock for the outdoor arena. And the way I designed the indoor is it has, I think, 5 or 6 windows, big windows down the side and a big open spot in the outside and the back. And it's lovely. And for most of the time, people want to be inside. It's perfect. And I do have around my driveway, it's limestone dust. So you can ride there.
You can hack around.
You can hack around if it's too wet to go outside on the grass. And I am a little, like if it pours down rain, I ask people to not go out on the grass. And so I just say, can you driveway hack? And you can trot out there. Like, it's fine.
Sounds pretty nice to me.
And I like the difference of grass to chat to arena. Like, I think horses need that proprioception. I think it's important for them, actually.
So you're okay with them doing some light work on different footing to kind of...
I think it's important, actually.
Yeah.
I truly believe in it. And I believe in hill work. My dressage horses, they're out on the hills. I will say, Bingo is the clumsiest horse I've ever had. But I got him as a 15. Was he 15 or 14 when I got him? I think he was always ridden on perfect footing. So he struggles. I don't hack him per se because he just falls down. So
really?
I don't want him to get hurt. Yeah.
He trips and falls.
Because, he didn't go on the appropriate. He didn't do that, changing of footings.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen the basically it's like like a covered outdoor. Some people's so they have so much open space, so much air, so many windows. For me, there's so many times I'm riding outside and I'm like, oh, the bugs are horrible, or the heat, the sun is so strong. It would be really nice to just have a roof over our heads.
Yeah. I honestly, for skin cancer, I mean, all the reasons, I love it. I would not have to do it again in a heartbeat.
Okay. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, geez, I have to make a choice between building an indoor, a lovely open and airy indoor, or an outdoor, you might suggest the indoor.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Just make it really open. That you can open it. So I can also close mine.
To me, that's perfect. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And if you can design outdoor elements into your indoor arena, then you've got the best of both worlds.
It's the best of both worlds. And like I said, I was going to have to take a paddock, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave the paddocks the way they were. It's worked for me really well. And also, I think it depends on your property and all of that.
How many acres do you have?
20.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. And right now I'm only using 15. I have a pasture. It's sort of, there's a creek and then another pasture, and it's great for retired horses.
Who maintains the property? Like, who checks your fences and mows the back fields and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I have a work husband that does that.
Work husband. I have a working husband.
I do. My husband, when we moved here, was very straight up and said, I will help you build it. I am not getting on a mower. I'm not weed eating. And I actually don't like to do that stuff either. It's not in my plan. I don't.
So who does it?
So I have a service that comes in and does it.
Good.
And then I have a guy that comes in once a week, and he's wonderful. And I'm just like, okay, that fence board's broken. Can you mow the fields? Can you harrow the rain? So that works really well for me. And as a business owner, I have to know that that's a fixed cost for me.
I love that. That is a fixed cost, because it's always going to be there. Because a lot of people will think, oh, well, it's a variable cost or it's a soft cost, but it's not. If you sit down and you do your financial projections, you do your assumptions, you can put farm maintenance into your fixed costs. And then you should. Exactly. I love to hear this from you. So this is what it means to be an equestrian professional, right? It doesn't just mean getting in the tack and riding to the FEI level or winning. It means planning ahead, saying, this is my business. This is what I love that you said in the beginning, you need to know what your income is going to be. And therefore, an indoor arena helps you have or generate predictable income. And honestly, Reese, the more I talk to you, the more I am convinced that your business decisions create an energy that equal your or result in your successes in the ring.
Thanks.
Because you're doing things, like I said, you're not leaking energy by bad business practices, right? So that's what a professional has to think about is, I have to run this business. I have to run this farm. How do I delegate? How do I predict my income? Because if you're stressed about all of those things, now that's not to say that what you do isn't stressful, because it is. They're horses. But when you're leaking energy out into all these little things, because you didn't plan or because you don't think that it's okay to hire someone to mow your lawn or mow your fields or fix your fences.
Exactly. And I think that when I grew up watching horse professionals, I kept saying, I'm like, this is a business like anything else, and it's opportunity cost. So if I'm on the tractor for 5 hours, I'm not teaching for 5 hours. And at the end of the day, I make more money teaching, and then I can pay someone to sit on the tractor. It doesn't mean I'm good or bad. It's just, I know I don't have the time to do it. It's not that I mind doing it.
What's going to make you more money?
What's going to make you more money?
It's billable hours.
Right. Now, during COVID, I didn't have any staff. I did it all. I maybe was drinking at 5 p.m.
Or 4 p.m.
Or 4 p.m. I don't even know.
Maybe on the tractor.
But, yeah, I was out there.
There might be a bottle of wine hidden under the tractor.
I have no idea. I grew potatoes. I was like, I don't know. I'll just grow potatoes. I got one potato out of the whole thing. But no, but I think, obviously you can cut your costs in a global pandemic when you need to, which I hope that will never happen to us again. But I could really shave my costs quickly, and I knew how to do that. But again, that comes to the business of what we're doing. And I think so many horse people think, well, oh my gosh, like I'm not, I own a farm. I'm a terrible farmer. Terrible. It's not good. I don't like it. I have gardens. They're beautiful. I have a wonderful lady who comes and helps me with those. She's retired and she loves it. I literally go out there. I'm like, I can't stand gardening. I just napalm the whole thing. I just hate it.
Well, you want to know what I don't hate? What I love, actually? American Harvest hemp pellets. Susie gets them every day, and this supplement has made a big difference in her overall demeanor. Hemp has been proven to have many benefits for horses and people. I'm not exactly sure how this works, but it does. She's calmer, she's more comfortable, she's more settled, and she just seems more comfortable in her own skin. I tried them on a whim. They were a new sponsor. I said, sure, ship me the product. Let's give it a try. What else? What do we have to lose? My expectations were not high, but the results are fantastic. Susie has never been more relaxed. Now, she'll never be a deadbeat, but I can tell you right now that her anxiety levels are nowhere near what they used to be. So I'm looking forward to a great spring season because my mare is comfortable, relaxed, and happy. So check out American Harvest Hemp Pellets. Go to stallandstable.com and click on the American Harvest banner. And now back to my conversation with Reese. Now, have you always had this attitude? Because I feel like the mainstream attitude of equestrian professionals is we have to do it all, that we have to take the hard road.
Well, when I was growing up, I looked at a lot of unhappy horse professionals. And I remember specifically I worked for someone that went to the Olympics and had Olympic medals. She was a pretty miserable human. And I remember just sitting there in the hallway. We all lived like in a dorm. And I remember seeing her medals. And I remember just standing there and thinking, this is the life I want. And if that's what I have to have Olympic medals,
I don't want it.
And it may be what you want to do. But I have always tried to remember that. I've tried to have balance. It doesn't always happen. But I have learned over time, it's not always been perfect. I think you have to be ready to shift your business model. My goal now is the horses that I take care of that are at my farm get literally whatever they need. And that leads to my success. But that also means I have to have a very good groom that does it. That was hard for me. That is hard. That statement is hard because I love grooming my horses. I'm the worst groom now. If I go out there by myself, it takes me like an hour to get ready. Like my assistant's like, what are you doing? I was like, painting the pony. Like I love it. Right. But again, I need to be able to get on, get off and say, I want him theraplated. I want him walked. I want him, magna waved, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yep.
I need her to perform those services so that I can teach more lessons because that's how I pay her.
We're niching. I don't want to say we're niching down. We're niching up as horse professionals. So there was a time where someone at your level had to do everything, but there are specialties now. There are careers grooms. There are professional grooms. There are facility managers, barn managers. I mean, you name it. Yeah. A stall mucker, you can have a good one or a bad one, but guess what? If you're mucking stalls and getting paid for it, you're a professional.
Yeah. And I mean, in Florida, those guys make $70 a stall. I mean, you do the math. They're probably making more than I am.
And they have to do a good job. There's always quality assurance that has to happen.
Yeah. And I'm happy to pay the stall mucker, right? So that I can come in and maybe I have to bring one less staff person, for example. Yeah. Or maybe it gets it to the point where I can do in Florida my horses when the stall crew comes in. So I can groom my own horses, and it's wonderful. And those guys make great money. When you do that math, you're like, wait a minute, maybe I should do that.
Doing the math, because it's scary. It's scary to say, I'm going to pay somebody to do this, or I'm going to hire someone to take this particular task off my plate so I can focus on something else. Or even, I'm going to reduce the number of horses on my property and raise my prices. That's really scary to do. What gives you the courage to say, to be, I don't want to say you're bold or you're unique. You are both of those things. But what gives you, is it looking at the numbers? Is it having a handle on your business that gives you the courage to say, these are the changes I have to make?
Yeah. Well, that's a big one. And I'm not saying I'm good. I have somebody that actually helps me with my taxes and helps me with my business that way. And I look at the profit loss and I look at it and I think, okay, where are we? How are we doing? What do I need to change? I do look at it from a business perspective. I think there are also people that can coach you to do it and say, okay, look, you're spending so much money here. But when I looked at, and my mom said, you don't have to have a full barn to be successful. That made me stop and say, what does that mean to me? And what that means to me is actually going down to one staff person. So what can that one staff person and myself handle? So that's important because that's the thing too. A person's not capable to take care of 24 horses by themselves at the level of care my guys need.
Yeah.
Not possible. It's just not. And so, and the other thing is I pay them well. My girls are paid well and they get great opportunities and I work really hard to give them really good opportunities so that they feel like they're getting somewhere, or they essentially sign up for a year and they run the barn for a year. A lot of them stay 2. Then after 2 years, and that was hard for me with my assistants to know, it is probably time for them to go. And that's hard because you're like, you're so good and you make my life so easy. But I have been very lucky that when one leaves, one is coming. And really, I only take kids that, sadly, I don't take interns much anymore, which breaks my heart because interns are great. And I think all of us learn through internships, but man, I don't want to hear, my kid's sick and sometimes working in barns, you fail. Sometimes it's hard.
Wait, clarify for me the challenge with interns.
Well, I think some of them don't value what you give them, right? So if you say, okay, I'm going to give you a lesson for your day of work, or you have to work set number of hours for this lesson. For whatever reason, I don't think either they don't take it seriously or the parents don't take it seriously or, they...
But they're kids, so a lot of them are minors, so their parents are involved in some way?
Some way. Normally, I take college interns mostly. For example, I have a girl that came here. She wanted some hours. And my sister and I basically had a bet. We're like, she's going to show up 2 weekends. She showed up 1 weekend for 4 hours. And that's just not worth it to us.
Yeah.
So if we find the right intern, we'll take them. But or a working student, I just don't do it much anymore because.
So intern and working student, you're using interchangeably.
Yeah.
Okay.
We call them interns.
I don't blame you. It comes down to value. And when someone's paying for something out of their pocket, the value changes.
The value changes big time.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I think a lot of us really learned in this industry with that. And, if people won't come and it's just not worth it for our daily go. And again, my assistant has a very good plan. She does her work. She takes beautiful care of the horses and they love her. And I try not to overwork her. We try to finish at a normal hour. I'm typically not finished, but she needs to go home at a normal hour. She's not here, of course, unless there's an emergency, right? She's not here after 5 o'clock, 4:30. She goes home. And I love that. I like to check on my horses and give them all kisses goodnight, make sure everybody's okay. And so it works well for us.
I'm very rarely impressed by an equestrian professional. And I am so impressed by your philosophy and your model. But you also, it's not hard. It's not like this is just business. You're like, yes, my horses get kisses and love and I live here. And it's really hard to weave the emotional side of working with horses, the personal side, and then the business side. And listeners, take a look at what Reese has going, and we'll put links up to everywhere where you can find her, but she is a role model for equestrian professional, for a business owner. I love everything that I'm hearing from you, Reese. I want to wrap this up with one last question, and it might be a big one, or I don't know, or it might be pretty succinct. How do you define success for yourself?
That's a great question. I have to think about that. Well, I will say, and again, I have a lot of help in coaching through this. Again, my husband is a CEO of his company, and we work together, and he looks at the business, and my father owns a business. He was a physician. He still is a physician, and owned his own practice, owned his own business. So I've been around people that have owned their own business for a long time. And I think at the end of the day, there's nothing better than walking out to your barn. And my husband said this one day when I was particularly like, I am closing this place. I can't. He said, you've created a really cool place where people can come and they are respected and they can learn, and they learn about the business and they learn about the horses. And, I'm able to ride and play with ponies all day, been able to create a really nice lifestyle for myself. And my husband, I don't know if he likes living on a farm, but here we are during a global pandemic. It wasn't too bad. But to be able to look at that and say, I have 2 wonderful FEI horses doing great things, and I'm able to pay for coaching for myself, and I'm able to own these horses, but also create an environment where people can come and learn and have fun. And, again, we're not always perfect. There are always unhappy people, and that's everywhere. But in general, I'm proud to say that I have been able to make sometimes a small profit, but a profit on my business every year. And, just a cool place where people can enjoy their horses. And that's what I set out to do. And I get to winter in Florida, which is not terrible. It's hard work.
I wouldn't hate that either.
It is hard work, but it is not terrible. And so I think that's success. I think that if I can make an Olympic team, amazing. It's a lot of money, and it's time, and it's energy, and it's luck. But for me now to be back in the international ring has been so much fun. So I think that's successful. I think that's what it is. And I've created professional riders who I can lean on now, and they're colleagues as much as anything. I can call them and say, what do you think? What would you do? And from a mentoringship idea, or if it's the word, that really makes me happy as I can look back at, I have probably 7 assistants. 5 of them are professional riders now, and the rest of them work in the horse industry. And I could call any of them today and say, I need help, and they would come, and I could leave them and head out. And I think that's also successful as you look back on your sort of journey as a professional. So it's kind of a rambling answer, but I'm very proud of our farm. I'm very proud of what we do every day. I'm proud of how happy my horses are and how they look and how they perform. And we just went to the regional finals, and Big Mike, he did 2 of the best tests that I could ask him to do.
So happiness, you're not going to find that on a profit and loss statement, but you've got it, and it emanates in all the corners of your life and your business. Well, I can't tell you what an enjoyable evening. Both of us have had long days, and we're like, oh, crap, now we got to do this thing. Let's grab a glass of wine. How is this going to go? And, I invariably get on these calls, and I'm like, this was the best conversation. I have to give a shout out to Glenn and Jennifer, our fearless leaders at Horse Radio Network, because they are magnets for attracting really cool people to the HRN family. And it's not like they have this recipe like, oh, who do we want? And we're looking for this exact person. It's just this sort of ethereal, cosmic type of process that happens. And we've all been here for a long time.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, that we keep doing this. And again, I guess the other advice I always tell people is, don't say no to things just because you're new. I mean, when we started podcasting, people would say like, what radio station are you on?
When can I listen?
How can I listen on my radio? My joke with Glenn is I'm on my 3-month. I told him I would do the show for 3 months. So nothing happened. Here we are. Sometimes I think we do good shows. And again, I have a work husband, Philip, my co-host. He's my work husband. I tease him. And really, truly, we are all friends. We all work together. It's just been a just amazing journey to work for such a cool network.
I cannot thank you enough, Reese, for such an enjoyable way to spend my evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Again, my thanks to Reese Koffler-Stanfield, host of the Dressage Radio Show. Thank you for joining me. And listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Reese, Maple Crest Farm, or the Dressage Radio Show, just go to stallandstable.com and look up this episode's show notes, where you will find links to all things Reese and all things Dressage Radio. If you need support, advice, or assistance for your equine business, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can go to stallandstable.com and click on the Contact Us button, or click around and see what we have for self-serve options. There are downloadable guides, templates, and spreadsheets for all of your equine business needs. And that's going to be a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it.